Okay. So I guess I have to explain to you all how I ended up here. I was in the end of my junior year thinking about the highly anticipated senior year. And I was like, what am I going to do to leave my mark here at Sacred Heart? What will be my last words? And I thought to my freshman year when Tiana Backey gave her Espacio, and I just felt, well, that's what I'll do. So here I am now. And I went up to Schaefer's office and we had a great conversation about what this Espacio would be about. And we had a great conversation. And the first thing that came to my mind after I walked out of her office was, what did I just get myself into? But nonetheless, I persevered with the help of Ms. Schaefer, and here it goes. There comes a time in every Black person's life when they realize they are Black, and their understanding of what that means. This is not to say that every Black person previously thought that they were white or another race, but there comes a time when reality sets in and their color comes into play in their lives. For example, when you are a baby and a toddler, you don't know what race you are, but as you grow older, you are more aware of who you are and the color of your skin. Today, I will speak to you all on what being Black means to me, my realization, and my understanding. My purpose in speaking to you today is for you to get an idea of what it's like to be Black at Sacred Heart with the awareness maybe Sacred Heart can be the second happiest place for everyone. I'm just so overwhelmed with happiness. I'm sorry. With that being said, I'm not saying I want my entire world to be Black. I'm just saying I want a balance. Black Lives Matter activist D. Ray McKenson said, I think that people are uncomfortable talking about race, the racist history of this country, and what we need to do to undo the impact of racism. People like to act as if we don't have a racist legacy. We can't change it unless we address it. Personally, I feel that Americans need to understand that Black history is American history. It is one and the same. The reason it is specified as Black history is because our country likes to forget all the important contributions Black Americans have made. Black history was categorized as a reminder of the fact that Black people are here, we have been here, and we will continue to make contributions and impact this country. Many people believe we live in a post-civil rights era, but I'm here to tell you the civil rights era is not over and we are not in a post-racial society. The civil rights era is like feminism. It has different waves, but the change and the basic injustice is still there. I grew up in a big family. I'm the youngest of 6 children. Both of my parents are self-employed, and in my opinion, I had a really great childhood. When it was time for me to start school, I began at my mom's preschool, which she runs out of our home, and during the time I was attending, it was all Black. It's safe to say I was very comfortable and had a great learning experience. The location was my home. I identified with everyone there, and we all came from a very similar background. And it was more of a family than a school. We learned, we played, we had birthday parties together, we got in trouble together, we peed on ourselves together. It was truly a positive community. I was very independent and outspoken and never really held back much of anything. Once I turned 5, it was time for me to go to regular school, away from my home, my comfort zone. It was time for me to come to Sacred Heart. My oldest sister graduated from here, my middle sister was currently attending, and my mom absolutely loves this school. Sacred Heart can do no wrong in her book, so naturally this is where I would attend. I got dressed, my hair in ponytails, and I was looking presentable because as my mom Lisa would say, I will not have my kids out here looking any kind of way. When I arrived to what was then called St. Joseph's, I came in and met a few of the teachers, Ms. Dezudi, Ms. Eagleson, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Joe, and a few others. And I had my evaluation. I'm here now, so I guess I did okay. I was now a child of the Sacred Heart. When I started school, my secure community was no longer there. The identification that I had with others was no longer there. That comfort and enthusiasm was no longer there. Something was different, I just didn't know what it was. In preschool, I sat by myself at lunch, avoided people at recess, and was excluded from the playhouse, a huge deal on the playground. All I wanted to do was go back home to what I knew and what I loved. In preschool, I moved up to pre-K because academically I was ahead of most other kids. Things have now changed. As I continued on my first year of kindergarten, the situation did not change. With much deliberation, my parents and teachers both agreed that I needed to repeat kindergarten because socially, they felt I was not prepared to advance to the first grade. My parents wanted me to be as independent, enthusiastic, and outspoken at school as I was at home. You can say their plan worked because as many of you who know me, I am very outspoken, independent, and enthusiastic, sometimes. Once I finally reached the first grade, I was getting the hang of things, as well as a first grader could at the time. School still wasn't my favorite, but I knew what I had to do. Switching back from school to home to school was kind of like traveling to a new country every day. At school, I had to talk a certain way, observe to see how things were done, which were different in many ways than the way I was raised, so I could fit in better. I would listen to types of music kids at school would listen to, watch certain types of movies and TV shows, learn the types of food like edamame and rice cakes. I'd never heard of those things until I came to Sacred Heart. Learning so many new things about the do's and don'ts of Sacred Heart culture. Outside of academics, from time to time, I would slip up and say something at home that I would at school. Something as simple as a joke. I would get looks and people would say, "What are you talking about? Why are you talking so white? You're whitewashed." Being young, I didn't know what that meant, and I was confused. It wasn't until I got older that I knew what they were getting at. My conversation is much different at school than at home because culturally things are much different here. If I were to try and bring a conversation from home to school, no one would understand it. At this time, I still didn't realize I was Black, I just knew I was different. This is a self-portrait of me that I drew in second grade. You all know, I now know, and everyone knows, this looks absolutely nothing like me. A few things could have been going through my head. I'm not really sure what it was, so let me cycle through a few ideas I have. Either I was ashamed of the color I was and what I looked like, or I was envisioning what I aspired to look like, or maybe I simply didn't know that I was different, or maybe I just wanted to fit in with my peers and look like them, or possibly I just drew what I saw on a daily basis. There would be an occasional Black kid in my class, but they never lasted longer than a year. As you can tell, I had yet to realize that I was Black. Now progressing to fourth grade, here is a ripped self-portrait I did of myself. A lot more accurate. Now looking back on it, I think my art teacher may have guided me towards the brown paper as I reached for the skin color tone. She may have told me what to put on the paper, but nonetheless, it was a more accurate depiction of myself. I had now realized that I was Black. What changed between second and fourth grade? Maybe it was all the times I got stares from learning about slavery and Martin Luther King Jr. Or maybe it was when my sister told me that our ancestors were slaves. What? Slaves? I'm appalled. I'm a product of slaves. Yet again, another portion of innocence fading away. Or maybe it was the frequent times I was called Dominique, something that still happens today, or the new addition, Libby. It could have been one of these, or it could have just been me growing up and realizing it for myself. At St. Joseph's, I would ask the question, why are there no African American studies at school? That question still remains unanswered. I would ask, why are there so few Black people on campus? That question still remains unanswered, and that situation is still present today. I could count all the Black people at SHP on my fingers and still have some left over. Imagine that you are one of 7 white students at this school. You walk into the cafeteria, there are no white faces. You walk into your classroom, and there are only Black students and a Black teacher. And imagine that the culture of this school is now through a Black perspective. I told you all when I realized I was Black, but realizing and understanding are two different things. I did not start understanding until my sophomore year when I went to a Student Diversity Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. That experience changed my entire life for the better. Learning information about topics such as race, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomics, religion, and so many other things, it was truly transformative. The most memorable time of a very memorable conference was my affinity group. Affinity groups are groups separated by race, and you go to the one you identify with, but there was also an LGBT group as well. When I entered the room filled with so many other young Black students, probably about 500, who were so similar to me, I had a feeling that I'd never ever felt before. A feeling that I would love to feel again. When I walked in, there was a sense of safety, community, and understanding. Like, we're all in this together, and I completely understand you. Within 30 seconds of walking into the room, they played the unspoken Black anthem, which is Before I Let Go by Frankie Beverly and Mays, and instantly the room went into an uproar. Everyone knew and understood what that song meant, and I instantly began to dance, sing, and rejoice in the community. We danced so much and we were so loud that the white affinity group opened our doors and started to stare. For me, it was the first time I was at an event, other than one given by my family, that Black people were the majority. We were all students attending private white institutions and one of very few Blacks in our school. After attending this conference and learning so much, a lot of things started to become clear to me. I was understanding what my Blackness means, understanding that when people look at me, the first thing they notice is my skin color, the second will be my gender. Understanding that when someone describes me, the first thing they will say is that I'm Black, understanding that in America, my life is valued less than the majority of yours. Understanding that this country is built by the blood, sweat, and tears of my enslaved people, understanding that the very buildings that understanding that the very buildings in the nation's capital that my people built are the very same places where laws would be made that wouldn't apply to us, the very same places that declared that my ancestors were not human or not fully human, so they should be counted as 3/5 of a person. But did 3/5 of a person build the Capitol or the White House? Understanding that a justice of the Supreme Court can publicly state that perhaps the University of Texas should have fewer Blacks, the reasoning being that Blacks would be better off at a less academically rigorous school. Understanding my Blackness meant understanding that men who vowed to protect and serve use Black people as target practice, murdering them while receiving millions of dollars in donations for support, paid leaves, and no jail time. Those men can go home to their families and continue on with life, while the families of the victims must suffer horrible grief every day by passing by family members' empty rooms and looking at their pictures. Or the wife of Eric Garner has to roll over to an empty bed every night, and his daughter won't have her father walk her down the aisle. And the parents of Mike Brown have to have dinner every night and look at his empty chair, and when they walk outside have to see where he was slain. Or the mother of Tamir Rice has to only picture what her son would have grown up to be. He was only 12. The sad thing is my Blackness allows me to understand and know that these victims are one of very many. And my Blackness allows me to understand that this will happen again. My Blackness allows me to understand that Eric Garner could have been my father, Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin could have been my brothers, Tamir Rice could have been my nephews, Sandra Bland could have been my sisters, or me. Ayanna Jones, a 7-year-old girl who was killed by police, could have been my niece. My mother could have easily been a mother of a slain son. Black men in America are dying at the same rate as endangered species. My Blackness allowed me to understand that when all these lives were taken, they were taken from me too. Those were my brothers, my sisters. They were a part of my community. My Blackness allowed me to hurt as if I knew them personally. And my Blackness allowed me to understand that this killing of Black people is nothing new, but with technology, it is more tangible for others to view. My Blackness allows me to understand that Black history did not start with slavery or the boat ride over. It allows me to understand that Black people were kings and queens in their own right, and that they were more than happy with the life that they lived. My Blackness allows me to understand that the American dream as it is depicted today is the African American nightmare. It is the nightmare because being dead while Black still classifies you as a threat. So the dead bodies need to be handcuffs because a bullet or bullets in them is not enough. Michael Brown and Oscar Grant and many others were handcuffed after their death. but the Charleston shooter killing of 9 can be escorted out of his home with no handcuffs, a bulletproof vest, and stop at Burger King for a meal because, hey, what's the rush? He only killed 9 people. Or maybe it's because people who have committed mass shootings, the people who I'm thinking of are all white, were in possession of a deadly weapon but are still alive today because cops didn't feel threatened. But a 12-year-old boy playing with a toy gun in a state that has passed the carry law is killed within 2 seconds of cops arriving on the scene. Or a man can be pronounced innocent after killing a boy who was on his way home from buying Skittles and iced tea while he was in his own neighborhood. Or because an unarmed teen can be shot and killed for no reason, 6 times and 1 in the head, a shot made for killing. Or perhaps it's because black people have to be aware of how many people are in the car, maximum 3, and they have to be aware of the music they're playing. I hope it's not too loud. You don't want to end up like Jordan Davis. Or maybe it's the fact that a sales associate can look at Oprah and tell her she won't get her a purse she requested because she cannot afford it. It's Oprah. She can afford the whole store. Oh wait, maybe it's because the education taught in predominantly black neighborhoods is substandard. Or maybe it's the fact that redlining exists. Or maybe it's because in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where there was the most prominent and wealthy black community in the United States, known as the Black Wall Street, was burned to the ground by angry whites in 1921. It can be many of these things as to why the American dream is the black American nightmare. I just thought I would give you a few. With understanding, it taught me to always take information I got from history textbooks with a grain of salt, as it is told through the European perspective, and we all know that's faulty. It allowed me to understand that when people would say all lives matter instead of Black Lives Matter, it's like saying at a 5K breast cancer run, cure all diseases. You're right, we do need to cure all diseases, but right now we're running for cancer. I'm giving this talk today because I'm not supposed to be here. On February 17, 2010, when that small Tesla plane crashed into my house, I was not supposed to make it. When that man threatened my brother not with a bullet, not only to him, but to his family, I was not supposed to be here. With the simple mindset of segregation, something that took place not too long ago, my father lived through it. You and I should not be in the same room. I should not be standing here speaking to you because my skin color should be preventing that. I should not be here because when I had those thoughts telling me every reason to leave, I persevered listening to that one voice telling me to stay. The very color of my skin was supposed to prevent me from being the woman I am today. So while some of you think this topic is dead or does not apply to you, it does. You have the power to spark change. I'm not supposed to be at this school. There is a reason why the ethnic breakdown is the way that it is. I now understand that I have to be the change and I have to suffer a little so that hopefully in the future, I won't be able to count the entire black population on my fingers. I have to sacrifice for those in the future so hopefully they won't have to. Bringing it back to SHP, I don't hate this place. This place has been a part of my life since I was 5 years old, and I can tell you it has a place in my heart. Just like any relationship, we have our ups and downs. For example, when I walk around on campus or socialize with peers from school, I should not hear the word nigga. I hear it very frequently, and it is not okay. I don't care if you are singing a song or you hear another person say it, or you want to be black, or you like black culture, or you just say it because you think it's cool. I literally cringe when I hear a non-black person say it. If you are not black, the word should not be a part of your vocabulary. And if you are black and decide to use the word, that's fine. All I recommend is that you learn the history and make the decision for yourself, and not just because it's trendy. On the other end of the spectrum, SHP and I have had great times. I have built amazing relationships with members of our community, members such as Claire Berry, my best friend since kindergarten, and Riley Hem, someone who used to refer to herself as Riley Brown because she loved Chris Brown so much. And Monica with a K Nagy, a woman with extreme superpower and drive who I love very much. And Sloan Maples, my ride or die since 3rd grade. And oddly enough, this really weird bald guy that some people like to call Lamont. And I've made new friends too, like Mata McConey, the silent beast, and Annie Bear and Natalie Zimmets, and Frank Bell and Shondi, who wrote a book. And so many other people like Dr. Hennessy and Inga Pearson. I may have said all these names to give a mini shout out during this time, Tatum, Miss Bose, and Isaiah, but these are just a few of the people that have made my time here a little bit easier. By being at Sacred Heart, I've learned how to relate and navigate a culture very different from my own. I see the need for that in the future, one that will be more and more diverse. I hope that you also see the importance of understanding cultures different from your own and can be aware of and appreciate the Black culture, one that is far richer than hip hop and super talented Black athletes. For some of you, the only Black people you will encounter are the ones sitting in this room. To me, that's unfortunate, but to you, that just may be life. Monty once told me, don't use your differences as a way to separate yourself, but use it as a way to bridge the change you want to see happen. I really think that's my purpose of speaking to you today. I'm creating that bridge with hopes that all of you will meet me in the middle. We can all stand together and be a Sacred Heart community willing to grow. I'm constantly understanding who I am, and I grow every day. And I know I have so much to learn. I am Diaja Nicole Smith. I am a Black woman. And if I had the opportunity to recreate myself, I would still choose to be a Black woman. Being Black is my favorite thing about me. The resilience, the inherent way we think and act, the strength, the beauty. Everywhere I go, I encourage Black excellence and sprinkle Black girl magic. It is who I am, and I'm unapologetically Black. I'm unapologetically proud. And most importantly, I'm unapologetically me. Thank you. Thank you.